Here's my take. Visiting India this week, I was struck by how different the mood was there compared to much of the world. While people in the United States and Europe are worried about inflation and a possible recession, Indians are excited about the future. India is now the most populous country on the planet and is projected to be its fastest growing large economy as well, at 5.9% this year. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said recently, India's time has arrived. My worry is that I've seen this movie before. I remember going to the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2006 and being bombarded with billboards plastered all over the small Swiss town saying, "Incredible India," proclaiming it to be the world's fastest growing free market democracy. In fact, those years, India was growing even faster than now, at more than 9%. The Indian Trade Minister confidently predicted to me that the Indian economy would soon overtake China's. It didn't quite work out that way. After a few years, growth petered out, economic reforms stalled, and many foreign businesses that had entered the country with great enthusiasm were disappointed. Some left altogether. As for beating China, despite its slowdown, the Chinese economy today is about 5 times the size of the Indian economy. And yet I came away from the trip bullish about India. While the enthusiasm in the mid-2000s did not fully translate, the country did continue to make progress. It has been the second fastest growing large economy after China for 20 years. But in recent years, it has been able to accelerate growth because of a series of revolutions. The first was the Aadhaar revolution, giving every Indian a unique 12-digit ID that is verified by fingerprints or an iris scan. It sounds simple, but it is, in Nobel laureate Paul Romer's words, the most sophisticated ID program in the world. Today, 99.9% of adult Indians have a digital ID that can be used to verify instantly who they are and thus set up a bank account in minutes. Literally, I've seen this done. Or it can be used to transfer government payments to recipients directly and with little skimming or corruption. Aadhaar enrollment is open to all and free, but its most distinctive feature is that it is publicly owned and operated. Unlike in the West, where digital platforms like Google or Facebook are private monopolies that can share your data to make a profit. Entrepreneurs can even build businesses on Aadhaar, and when you use the platform, you don't pay those persistent fees that are ubiquitous in the West. The second is the Geo revolution. Mukesh Ambani, India's biggest and most ambitious business leader, made a staggering $46 billion bet that by offering very cheap phones and data packages, he could get most Indians on the internet. It worked. With most using smartphones as their computers, over 700 million Indians now use the internet. India's usage of data is larger than the next 2 countries, China and the United States, combined. The third is an infrastructure revolution, which is readily apparent to anyone visiting India. Spending on roads, airports, train stations, and other such projects has exploded. Government capital spending, CapEx, has risen 5-fold since fiscal year 2014. The average construction of national highways has roughly doubled, as have seaport capacity and the number of airports. Mumbai is finally building an extensive set of bridges, roads, tunnels, and metro lines that could truly connect all parts of India's leading economic center. These 3 revolutions could this time truly transform India, but they can do so best by helping in the country's greatest challenge, bringing in hundreds of millions of Indians who are still on the margins economically, socially, and politically. As of 2019, about 45% of Indians, more than 600 million people, live on less than $3.65 a day. Nandan Nilekani, the visionary architect of Aadhaar, describes how to create jobs in a novel bottom-up way. Rather than the Chinese-style top-down approach of building 100 new factories that employ tens of thousands of workers, he envisions using Aadhaar to get loans to the millions of small businesses scattered throughout the country. He said to me, if 10 million small businesses get loans that let them each hire 2 more people, that's 20 million new jobs. The even larger challenge of inclusivity is around India's women, who are still pressured in various ways not to work outside the house. Female labor force participation in India is low and stunningly has been falling over the last 2 decades, from around 30% to 23%. Of the G20 countries, not even Saudi Arabia's is lower. Bloomberg Economics estimates that closing the gap between women's and men's participation would increase India's GDP more than 30% over the next 3 decades. A focus on inclusivity would also transform India's religious tensions, bringing into the fold India's Muslims, roughly 200 million people, a seventh of the country, who face persistent persecution. It would also be in character for a country that is open, pluralistic, and a democracy, where the majority of the population are Hindus, a religion almost defined by its pluralism and tolerance. India has the potential to be admired not just for the quantity of its growth, but also the quality of its values. And that would truly be an incredible India.